My name is Nathan. I am 28 years old, and I spent $26,000 on a luxury Dubai vacation for my family, only to be told I had to uninvite my girlfriend so my brother's gold-digging fiancée could take her place. When my dad said, "She deserves it more than Amanda," something inside me snapped. What was supposed to be a celebration of my success turned into the ultimate betrayal, but trust me, they will never forget what I did next. Before I dive into how my family vacation turned into the biggest betrayal of my life, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had a family member take your generosity for granted. Trust me, what happened next changed everything. Growing up in Seattle, we were what most would consider a typical middle-class family. My dad worked in construction management, my mom was an elementary school teacher, and my brother Jason and I shared a bedroom in our modest 3-bedroom house. Life was pretty normal until I turned 14, when my parents announced they were getting divorced. It was not exactly a surprise. The fighting had been getting worse for months, but it still hit hard. What became apparent after the divorce was my father's clear favoritism toward Jason. He was 3 years older than me, athletic, and shared my dad's passion for sports and cars. I was the quieter one, more interested in computers and science. Dad never missed Jason's football games, but somehow always had work commitments when I had academic competitions. When Jason needed money for a car at 17, Dad helped him buy one. When I needed a computer for coding projects, I was told to save up and buy it myself. Despite this, I was determined to succeed. I studied hard-earned scholarships and worked part-time jobs throughout college. Those years were tough, juggling classes, work, and trying to save money while watching Jason drop out of community college and bounce between jobs, always with Dad's financial safety net beneath him. But the hard work paid off when I landed a job at TechSphere, one of the most prestigious tech companies in Seattle. My career took off faster than I expected. I started as a junior developer, but quickly rose through the ranks. By 26, I was leading my own team and making 6 figures. Meanwhile, Jason had cycled through 8 different jobs, never lasting more than a year anywhere. He always had excuses: bad bosses, toxic workplaces, companies that did not appreciate his talents. Dad always nodded sympathetically, and sometimes even helped pay his rent. With my new financial stability, I wanted to do something special, something that would show my family I had made it, despite the lack of support. I decided to plan a luxury family vacation to Dubai, a place none of us had ever been, with its incredible architecture, beautiful beaches, and world-class shopping. It would be a 10-day trip, with every luxury included: business-class flights, a 5-star hotel on Palm Jumeirah desert safaris, fine dining, and even tickets to the observation deck of the Burj Khalifa. For 6 months, I meticulously planned every detail. I researched the best time to visit the most luxurious hotel that could accommodate us all, and experiences that everyone would enjoy. I set aside $26,000, a significant amount even with my salary, to create the perfect family vacation. I wanted to give them something they could never afford on their own, a once-in-a-lifetime experience that would create lasting memories. When I announced the trip at a family dinner, everyone was thrilled. My mom cried and hugged me tight. Dad seemed genuinely impressed, clapping me on the shoulder with pride for possibly the first time in my life. Jason whistled at the brochures I brought along, pointing out the infinity pool and private beach access at our hotel. Even Amanda, my girlfriend of 2 years, was stunned. I had told her about the trip beforehand, of course, but seeing everyone's reaction made it real for both of us. "This is incredible," Nathan and Amanda whispered to me, as my family excitedly discussed what they wanted to do in Dubai. "You are amazing for doing this for them." For a few weeks, everything was perfect. We had a family chat group where I shared updates and details about the trip. Everyone confirmed they could take the time off work. Mom, who had remarried, but was still on good terms with Dad, arranged for her students' assignments during her absence. Dad requested the time off from his construction company. Jason, who was working as a sales associate at an electronics store, got his vacation approved. And Amanda, a graphic designer, scheduled her freelance projects around our dates. The first sign of trouble came 3 months before the trip, when Jason announced he was engaged to Brittany, a woman he had been dating for just 4 months. I had only met her twice, and both times left me with an uneasy feeling. Brittany was attractive and charming on the surface, but there was something calculated about her interest in Jason, who despite his employment issues, still received regular financial help from Dad. The first time I met Brittany at a family barbecue, she spent most of the time asking about my job, my condo, and even what kind of car I drove. The second time at a restaurant dinner, she cornered me to ask hypothetically how much developers at my level made. When Jason mentioned my planned Dubai trip, her eyes lit up with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. A week after their engagement announcement, Jason called me. "Hey bro, I was thinking," he started casually. "Would it be possible for Brittany to join us on the Dubai trip? I know it is last minute, but it would be amazing to celebrate our engagement there." I hesitated. The trip was already expensive, and adding another person would mean additional costs for flights, hotel adjustments, and activities. But Jason was my brother, and despite our differences, I wanted him to be happy. "Let me look into it," I told him. "I will have to check availability and costs." When I researched the options, I discovered that adding another person at this stage would cost an additional $6,000 due to rate changes and booking adjustments. It was a lot of money, but I considered it. Maybe this would be a chance for me to get to know Brittany better and see what Jason saw in her. Before I could make a decision, Jason texted that we would discuss it at Dad's house the following weekend. I thought it was strange that he wanted to have this conversation at Dad's rather than directly with me, but I agreed, not realizing I was walking into a carefully set trap. 2 weeks before the departure date, we all gathered at Dad's house for what he called a final planning meeting for the Dubai trip. I brought my laptop and printed itineraries for everyone excited to go over the fantastic experiences I had arranged. When I arrived, Mom was already there, along with Jason. But I was surprised to see Brittany sitting on the couch looking completely at home. "Nathan," she exclaimed with exaggerated warmth, giving me a hug I did not ask for. "I am so excited about Dubai. Thank you so much for including me." I pulled back confused. "Oh, I have not finalized any changes yet. I was still looking into options." An awkward silence fell over the room. Jason and Dad exchanged glances, and Mom suddenly became very interested in her teacup. "Actually, son," Dad cleared his throat, "we wanted to talk to you about that. Since Brittany is going to be family now, we all think she should join us on this trip." "I understand that," I replied carefully. "I have been checking into adding another booking, but it is quite expensive at this point." "That is not exactly what we meant," Dad interrupted. "We thought, since there are 5 of us now, and you booked for 4. It took me a moment to process what he was implying. "Wait. You want to uninvite someone who—" Dad looked uncomfortable but pressed on. "Well, Amanda is not family. Not technically. And this is a family vacation." The room seemed to tilt around me. "Amanda is my girlfriend. She has been for 2 years. You all know her. She helped me plan parts of this trip. Nathan, Jason jumped in Brittany, and I just got engaged. This would be such a special trip for us to celebrate. Amanda will understand. You guys can go anywhere, anytime." I looked at Brittany, who was wearing an expression of fake sympathy that made my blood boil. "I would never want to cause any problems," she said with a sugary voice. "But it would mean so much to us." "This does not make any sense," I said, my voice rising. "I paid for 4 people, me, Amanda, Jason, and Dad. Mom has her own booking that she and I arranged separately." I turned to my father. "You cannot just decide to uninvite my girlfriend." Dad's face hardened, an expression I knew well from childhood. "Son, Brittany is going to be family now. Amanda can go another time. I am sure you can afford to take her somewhere else." "That is not the point," I said, standing up now. "I planned this trip. I paid $26,000 for it. I invited Amanda. And now you are uninviting her," Dad said firmly. "Brittany will take her place. It is the right thing to do." I looked at Jason, who avoided my eyes. Mom looked deeply uncomfortable but said nothing. Brittany had the audacity to smile sympathetically at me, as if she was doing me a favor by stealing my girlfriend's vacation spot. "This is unbelievable," I said. "You do realize I paid for everything, right? The flights are in my name. The hotel is under my credit card." Dad waved his hand dismissively. Yes, we know you have money now. You remind us every chance you get. But family comes first, Nathan. Brittany is going to be your sister-in-law. Amanda is just a girlfriend. Just a girlfriend, I repeated, incredulous. We live together. We have talked about marriage. She is more family to me than Brittany is. Jason finally spoke up again. Bro, do not be dramatic. This is a special time for me and Brittany. Can you not just be happy for us? I stared at my brother, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity how selfish he had always been and how our father had enabled it our entire lives. I turned to my mother hoping for some support, but she just gave me a sad look that said, "You know how they are." What exactly do you expect me to tell Amanda? I asked. Sorry, you cannot come on the vacation we have been planning for months, because my brother's girlfriend of 4 months is suddenly more important. Fiancée Brittany corrected with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Dad stood up, his patience clearly running out. Nathan, this is happening. Either accept it or we can cancel the whole trip. Your choice. I left my father's house in a daze of anger and disbelief. When I got home, Amanda was working on her laptop at our dining table. She looked up with a smile that faded quickly when she saw my face. What happened? She asked. I told her everything, watching her expression shift from confusion to hurt to anger. They cannot do that, she said, her voice shaking slightly. It is your trip. You paid for it. They seem to think that does not matter, I replied, pacing our living room. Dad acted like I was being selfish for not wanting to uninvite you, like I owed this to Jason and Brittany. Amanda was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? It was a good question. Part of me wanted to cancel the entire trip out of spite. Another part wanted to stand my ground and refuse to uninvite Amanda. But I knew my father well enough to know he would make the entire trip miserable if I forced the issue. I do not know, I admitted. I feel completely powerless. If I fight this, they will make the whole vacation a nightmare. If I give in, I am letting them walk all over me again. Amanda came over and took my hands. I know how much this trip meant to you, how much you wanted to show them what you have accomplished. It is not just about showing off, I said quietly. I wanted to do something nice for them. I wanted us to have a good time together for once. I wanted Dad to be proud of me. I know, she said softly, and that is why this hurts so much. We talked late into the night, weighing options and processing the betrayal. Eventually, Amanda said something that struck a chord. Maybe you need to decide what matters more, making your dad proud of you or being proud of yourself. As I lay awake that night, Amanda's words echoed in my mind. Throughout my life, I had sought my father's approval and constantly felt like I fell short. Jason was always the favorite, always the one Dad protected and supported. I had fought and clawed for every bit of success I had, and now they expected me to sacrifice Amanda's happiness for Brittany's, a woman who clearly saw my brother as a meal ticket. Something shifted inside me that night. I decided I would appear to concede, but I was not going to let them get away with this. Not this time. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with thoughts of the conversation at my father's house. By morning, I had moved beyond shock to a cold, calculated anger. For my entire life, I had been second best to Jason in my father's eyes. I had worked twice as hard for half the recognition. And now, when I finally had something to be proud of, financial success that allowed me to treat my family to a luxury vacation, they still found a way to take it from me and make it about Jason. As I showered and got ready for work, a realization crystallized. This was not a one-time incident, but a lifelong pattern. I remembered countless birthdays where Jason's gifts were thoughtful and expensive while mine seemed like afterthoughts. I remembered Dad attending every one of Jason's football games but missing my science fair where I won first place. I remembered how when I got into college with a scholarship, Dad's reaction was, well, at least it will not cost me anything, while he paid thousands for Jason's community college classes that he eventually dropped. That afternoon, I called my friend Tyler for lunch. We had been friends since college, and he was one of the few people who knew the full history with my family. They did what Tyler exclaimed when I told him about the Dubai situation. After you paid for everything, that is insane. I know, I said, pushing my food around my plate without much appetite. The worst part is they acted like I was being unreasonable for objecting. Like I should be happy to spend thousands of dollars to take my brother's gold-digging fiancée on vacation while my girlfriend stays home. Tyler shook his head in disbelief. So, what are you going to do? Cancel the trip? I thought about it, I admitted. But that feels like cutting off my nose to spite my face. I would lose all the money I have spent, and they would just blame me for being petty. You could stand your ground, Tyler suggested. Tell them Amanda comes, or nobody goes. Dad would make the whole trip miserable. He would sulk and complain the entire time, and Jason would back him up. Tyler studied me for a moment. There is another option, you know. You could let them think they won, and then change the plans without telling them. I looked up from my untouched lunch. What do you mean? I mean you booked everything right. It is all in your name. So you have the power to change things. They do not have to know until it is too late. A slow smile spread across my face as possibilities began to form in my mind. Tyler, you are a genius. Just promise me, you will not let them walk all over you again, he said seriously. You deserve better, man. As I drove back to the office, Tyler's words resonated with me. You deserve better. It was something I had rarely allowed myself to believe. But he was right. I did deserve better, and for once, I was going to stand up for myself. That evening, I began researching my options. I contacted the travel agent who had helped me book parts of the trip and explained the situation. She was sympathetic and outlined what changes could be made without alerting the other travelers. I discovered that as the primary booking holder, I had significant control over the reservations. I could modify them right up until check-in, and since all the confirmation emails came to my address, no one else would be notified of the changes. Over the next few days, I developed a 3-phase plan. Phase 1 involved modifying our existing bookings. Phase 2 would create a separate vacation for Amanda and me. Phase 3 would ensure my father Jason and Brittany learned a valuable lesson about taking advantage of my generosity. I meticulously documented every expense I had already paid, every confirmation number, and every booking detail. I created a separate email folder for the modified arrangements to ensure nothing got mixed up. I was determined to execute this flawlessly. A week before the trip, I called my dad. I have been thinking about the Dubai situation, I said, keeping my voice neutral. And you are right. Brittany should come since she and Jason are engaged. I am glad you came around, son, Dad replied, sounding pleased with himself. It means a lot to your brother. Actually, I continued. I have made some changes to the arrangements. I was able to upgrade some of our experiences since we will be celebrating their engagement. Upgrades. Dad perked up immediately. What kind of upgrades? Better desert safari package, private yacht tour, instead of the Group 1 exclusive dining experiences, I said vaguely. I want this to be special for everyone. That sounds fantastic, Dad exclaimed, his voice warm, with approval for perhaps the first time in years. Wait until I tell Jason and Brittany. I will send everyone the updated itinerary tomorrow, I promised. Just make sure you all have your passports ready. The fake itinerary I created was a masterpiece of luxury travel. It featured exclusive desert experiences, VIP access to attractions, and gourmet dining options. In reality, I had downgraded every single aspect of their trip to the most basic options available and in some cases canceled reservations entirely. The 5-star hotel was switched to a 3-star hotel on the outskirts of the city. The business class flights were changed to economy with middle seats. The private tours became standard group tours with dozens of other tourists. Meanwhile, I booked an entirely different vacation for Amanda and me. Instead of Dubai, we would be going to the Maldives, a destination Amanda had always dreamed of visiting. I reserved an overwater bungalow at an exclusive resort with private dining experiences and couples spa treatments. It cost slightly more than I had planned to spend on Dubai, but seeing Amanda's face, when I surprised her with the new plans, made it entirely worth it. Are you serious? She gasped, when I showed her the Maldives booking. But what about your family? They will be getting exactly what they deserve. I replied with a smile. Jason called me the day after I sent the fake upgraded itinerary. Bro, this looks amazing, he gushed. Brittany is so excited about the private yacht tour. She has already bought 3 new swimsuits. I am glad you are both looking forward to it, I replied, suppressing a smile at the thought of their faces when they discovered there was no yacht tour at all. Brittany even posted on social media about the upcoming luxury Dubai getaway, with multiple hashtags like #luxury_travel and #VIP experience. She tagged Jason and wrote a gushing caption about her generous future brother-in-law. The irony was almost too much to bear. The night before our departure, we had a family dinner at an expensive restaurant. Dad's choice, but my treat, of course. Throughout the meal, Dad, Jason, and Brittany talked excitedly about the trip, never once thanking me or acknowledging that I was the one making it all possible. When the check came, Dad did not even pretend to reach for his wallet. As I paid the $200 dinner bill, I watched them chatting and laughing, completely oblivious to what awaited them tomorrow. In that moment, any lingering doubt about my plan vanished. They had pushed me too far for too long, and it was finally time for them to learn that actions have consequences. The morning of our departure arrived with perfect weather and a sense of electric anticipation in the air. I had arranged for a luxury SUV to pick us all up from my apartment at 8 a.m., giving us plenty of time to reach the airport for our 11 a.m. flight. Amanda had reluctantly accepted her exclusion from the trip, at least as far as my family knew, and kissed me goodbye before the others arrived, whispering, "See you at our gate," with a conspiratorial smile. Dad arrived first, wearing new vacation clothes and sunglasses, looking every bit the excited tourist. Jason and Brittany pulled up 15 minutes late in Jason's beat-up sedan, with Brittany immediately complaining about having to wake up so early. "The travel time to Dubai is over 15 hours, I explained patiently. "We need to be at the airport early to check in comfortably." "I still think we should have booked a direct flight," Dad grumbled as the driver loaded his oversized suitcase into the SUV. "Direct flights to Dubai from Seattle do not exist, Dad," I replied. "We have the shortest connection possible through London." Brittany emerged from Jason's car wearing designer sunglasses and carrying a handbag that I suspected cost more than Jason's monthly salary. She had 3 large suitcases for a 10-day trip. "I need options for all those Instagram photos," she explained when Jason struggled to carry them all. As we drove to the airport, the conversation revolved entirely around what they wanted to do in Dubai. Not once did anyone ask me about the considerable effort and expense I had put into planning the trip. Dad even had the audacity to make a suggestion about our seats. "Nathan, see if you can get us upgraded to first class at the airport," he said casually. "I heard sometimes they do that if you just ask." I nodded noncommittally, knowing that their current seats were actually worse than what I had originally booked. Instead of the spacious business class seats I had initially reserved, they would be squeezing into economy middle seats, separated from each other by strangers. When we arrived at the airport, I led them to the check-in area for our airline. I had already checked in online for my hidden Maldives flight with Amanda, so I stood back as Dad approached the counter, confidently pulling his passport from his jacket pocket. "Checking in for the Dubai flight," he announced to the agent. "Party of 4. The agent typed on her computer, a small frown forming. "I am sorry, sir. I only see 3 passengers under this reservation. Let me check the names. Michael Wilson, Jason Wilson, and Brittany Taylor." Dad turned to me in confusion. "Nathan, there must be some mistake. Tell her we have 4 tickets." I stepped forward with a concerned expression. "That is strange. Let me see." I pretended to look confused as I showed the agent my phone. "I have the confirmation right here." The agent looked at my phone and then back at her computer. "Sir, this confirmation number is different from the booking these 3 passengers are on. Let me check your reservation separately." After a moment of typing, she looked up. "Mr. Nathan Wilson, you have a different booking entirely. You are on the flight to Malé, Maldives, not Dubai." Dad's face went from confused to shocked. "Maldives. What is she talking about, Nathan?" "There must be some mix-up," I said with perfectly feigned confusion. "Let me talk to a manager about this." I asked Dad, Jason, and Brittany to wait with the luggage while I spoke with the airline staff. Instead, I walked to a different counter and watched from a distance as they became increasingly agitated, checking their watches and looking around for me. After 15 minutes, I returned with a serious expression. "So I talked to the manager, and there has been a slight change of plans." "What change of plans?" Dad demanded. "Where is the manager?" "The original bookings had to be modified," I explained calmly. "There was an issue with the reservations." "What kind of issue?" Jason asked, looking worried now. "Well, when I was asked to remove Amanda from the trip to accommodate Brittany, I had to make some adjustments," I said, maintaining eye contact with my father. "Unfortunately, those adjustments included changing a few details." Brittany stepped forward, her voice shrill. "What details?" "We are still going to Dubai, right?" "Yes, you three are still going to Dubai," I confirmed. "Just not on the same flights I originally booked, and not staying at the same hotel, and not with the experiences I initially planned." Dad's face darkened as understanding began to dawn. "Nathan, what did you do?" I pulled out printed copies of their new itinerary and handed them over. "You will be flying economy class, not business. You will be staying at the Desert Sun Inn, not the Five Palm Jumeirah. And instead of private tours, you will be on standard group excursions." "This is not what you told us," Brittany exclaimed, scanning the paperwork with horror. "What about the yacht tour? The desert safari? The VIP experiences?" "Those were on the fake itinerary I sent," I admitted. "This is the real one." Dad grabbed my arm. "This is ridiculous. Fix this right now." I calmly removed his hand. "I cannot fix it. The original bookings have been cancelled. These are your only reservations now." "But you said you upgraded everything," Jason protested. "And you said Amanda could come on the trip we planned together," I countered. "Things change." "Where will you be during all this?" Dad demanded. "Amanda and I will be enjoying an overwater bungalow in the Maldives," I replied. "It is actually where she always wanted to go. I just needed a good reason to change our plans." The color drained from Dad's face. "You cannot be serious. You are choosing a girlfriend over your family." "No, Dad. I am choosing to respect myself and the person I love. You three made it clear that my feelings and my relationship do not matter, so I made new arrangements that reflect that reality." "This is unacceptable," Dad shouted, causing several travelers to turn and stare. "I will not stay in some cheap hotel." "The reservations are non-refundable at this point," I explained. "You can either take this trip as it is now, or go home. Your choice." "You have no right to do this," Dad continued, his voice rising. "I am your father." "Yes, you are, and I paid for this entire vacation. That gives me every right to decide how my money is spent." I pulled out a folder containing printouts of all my payments. $26,000, Dad. That is what I was willing to spend to give our family a special experience. "And how did you repay that generosity?" "By demanding I exclude the person I love to make room for someone who has been in our lives for all of 4 months. Brittany is family now." Jason insisted, putting his arm around her. "Really? Because family does not treat each other the way you three treated me." I gestured to the documents. "Every expense is documented here. The original bookings and the new ones. Everything transparent and clear." By now, Dad was causing such a scene that an airport security officer was approaching our group. "Is everything okay here?" the officer asked, looking between us. "Just a family disagreement," I replied calmly. "They are upset about their travel arrangements." "He tricked us," Brittany exclaimed to the officer. "He promised us a luxury vacation, and now he is abandoning us." The officer looked confused. "Ma'am, booking disputes are a customer service issue, not security. Unless there is a safety concern, I suggest you take this up with the airline." "There is no dispute," I clarified. "They have confirmed reservations for their trip. They are just unhappy with the quality of those reservations." Dad looked like he might explode. "Nathan, if you do this, do not expect to be welcome in this family anymore." The threat hung in the air between us. In the past, it would have devastated me, the ultimate rejection from the parent whose approval I had sought my entire life. But in this moment, I felt only a calm certainty. "That is your choice to make, Dad. Just like this was mine." I picked up my carry-on bag. "I need to go now. My flight boards in 40 minutes, and Amanda is waiting for me." "You will regret this," Jason called after me, as I walked away. I turned back one last time. "No, I do not think I will. Enjoy Dubai." As I walked toward the international terminal where Amanda was waiting, I felt lighter than I had in years. The hurt and resentment I had carried for so long had transformed into something else: self-respect. I found Amanda waiting at our gate, nervously checking her phone. When she saw me, her face lit up with relief. "How did it go?" she asked as I sat beside her. "About as expected," I replied, still processing the confrontation. "Dad threatened to disown me. Jason said I would regret it, and Brittany had a meltdown about her Instagram photo opportunities being ruined." Amanda squeezed my hand. "Are you okay?" I thought about it for a moment. Surprisingly, yes. For the first time in my life, I stood up to them. I did not back down or let them manipulate me. It feels liberating. 3 hours later, we were airborne sipping champagne in business class as our plane headed toward the Maldives instead of Dubai. Amanda dozed against my shoulder while I gazed out the window, reflecting on the morning's events. Part of me wondered if I had gone too far, if the revenge had been too harsh. But then I remembered years of being second best, of working twice as hard for half the recognition of giving, and giving only to have more demanded of me. No, I whispered to myself. They needed to learn that actions have consequences. My phone had been flooded with angry texts before takeoff. Dad called me selfish and ungrateful. Jason accused me of jealousy and pettiness. Brittany dramatically claimed I had ruined her special engagement celebration and demanded compensation for her emotional distress. I silenced my phone without responding to any of them. The contrast between what awaited us and what awaited them could not have been more stark. While they would be crammed into economy seats for 15+ hours, we were comfortably stretching out in business class. While they would be checking into a basic 3-star hotel miles from the attractions, we would be stepping into a private overwater bungalow with direct access to crystal-clear waters. While they would be following tour guides with dozens of other tourists, we would be enjoying private experiences tailored specifically to our interests. When we landed in the Maldives the next day, the humidity and heat hit us like a wall as we stepped off the plane, but any discomfort was forgotten when we boarded the seaplane that would take us to our resort. From above, the islands looked like green jewels set in a sea of blue, with rings of white sand beaches and coral reefs visible beneath the surface of the water. "This is unbelievable," Amanda whispered, pressing her face against the window. "I cannot believe we are actually here." The resort exceeded even the glowing reviews I had read online. Our bungalow stood on stilts over the turquoise lagoon, with a glass floor section in the living room, allowing us to watch colorful fish swim beneath us. A private deck featured steps leading directly into the water, and an outdoor shower was enclosed by natural screens for privacy, while maintaining the ocean view. As we settled in, I finally turned my phone back on. The angry messages had multiplied, but there were also texts from my mother and a few mutual friends of Jason and me, all asking what had happened. Apparently, Brittany had taken to social media to share her version of events. "Just got abandoned at the airport by my future brother-in-law," she had posted. "He promised us a luxury Dubai vacation and then ditched us for a cheap hotel while he took his girlfriend to the Maldives instead. Number, family betrayal. Number, worst brother-in-law." The post had garnered sympathetic comments from her friends, but also questions from people who knew me. My cousin Derek had commented, "That does not sound like Nathan at all. There must be more to this story." In response to the social media drama, I made a single factual post. Setting the record straight, I planned and paid for a family vacation to Dubai. 2 weeks before departure, I was told my girlfriend of 2 years had to stay home, so my brother's fiancée of 4 months could take her place. I made alternative arrangements that allowed everyone to still travel. All expenses were paid by me. End of story. I attached a single photo, a screenshot of the original email confirmation, showing the total amount I had paid for the initial bookings. I did not engage further, turning off notifications and returning my focus to our vacation. Over the next few days, Amanda and I snorkeled with manta rays, had dinner on a private sandbank under the stars, and spent lazy mornings drinking coffee on our deck as the sun rose over the Indian Ocean. It was everything a dream vacation should be: peaceful, luxurious, and completely free from family drama. Or at least it would have been, if not for the occasional updates that filtered through from mutual connections. My cousin Derek, who remained neutral in family conflicts, texted me on day 3. Just so you know, your dad Jason and Brittany are having a pretty rough time in Dubai. Dad called Uncle Mike complaining that the hotel is an hour from everything they want to see. The tours are overcrowded, and they tried to upgrade but could not afford it. Brittany has apparently been giving Jason hell about the whole thing. I shared this with Amanda as we relaxed on our deck that evening. Do you feel bad? She asked carefully. I considered the question. I feel bad that it came to this. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted them to understand how it felt to be disrespected and taken for granted. From what you have told me about your dad and Jason, I doubt they will see it that way, Amanda said gently. She was right, of course. Men like my father and brother rarely accepted responsibility for their actions. In their narrative, I would always be the villain who ruined their vacation out of spite, not the victim who finally stood up for himself after years of mistreatment. On day 5, I received a text from my mother that made me smile despite myself. Just heard from your father. Apparently, Brittany had a complete meltdown because the desert safari was on regular camels instead of luxury camels, whatever those are, and did not include the private dinner she expected. She is now refusing to participate in any more activities. Jason called me asking if I could send them money for upgrades. I told him to talk to you. Hope you and Amanda are having a wonderful time in the Maldives. You deserve it. Love, Mom. The most interesting update came on day 7 from my friend Marcus, who was connected with Jason on social media. Dude, you might want to check Jason's relationship status. It just changed from engaged to nothing, and all the photos of him and Brittany are gone. Sure enough, a quick search revealed that Brittany had similarly scrubbed Jason from her profiles. Where once there had been gushing posts about my future husband and forever love, there was now no trace of their relationship. Instead, her most recent post showed her alone at a Dubai beach club with the caption, "Making the best of a disappointing situation." Some people just cannot provide the lifestyle they promise. Number, know your worth. I showed Amanda the post, and she shook her head in disbelief. Wow, she really just admitted she was with Jason for money. And when the luxury trip fell through, so did her interest in being part of our family, I finished. I cannot say I am surprised. While I had not planned for my revenge to break up Jason and Brittany, I could not pretend to be upset about it. She had clearly seen Jason as a meal ticket, a connection to what she thought was my wealthy lifestyle. When the reality failed to meet her expectations, she had shown her true colors. As our perfect vacation continued, I found myself thinking less and less about my father and brother. For the first time in my life, I was putting my own happiness first, and it felt wonderful. Amanda and I returned to Seattle, relaxed, tanned, and closer than ever. The 10 days in paradise had given us time to not only enjoy each other's company, but also to have serious conversations about our future together. Away from the pressures of work and family drama, we had discovered new depths to our relationship. As soon as our plane touched down, our phones began buzzing with notifications. I had dozens of missed calls and messages from family members, ranging from angry tirades from my father to confused questions from extended family. I ignored most of them, responding only to my mother to let her know we had arrived home safely. Let's take a day to decompress before dealing with any of this, Amanda suggested as we collected our luggage. The family drama has waited this long, it can wait another 24 hours. I agreed, grateful for her wisdom. We spent the next day unpacking, doing laundry, and easing back into normal life. I had taken an extra day off work to adjust to the time difference, which gave me space to mentally prepare for the inevitable confrontations. The first message I chose to respond to was surprisingly from Jason. While my father's text remained accusatory and angry, Jason's final message was different. We need to talk, just you and me. No dad, no Brittany, please. Something about the simplicity of the request and the absence of blame made me curious. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments the following afternoon. When I arrived, Jason was already there, nursing a black coffee, and looking like he had not slept well in days. The confident, entitled brother I had left at the airport was gone, replaced by someone who seemed smaller, somehow deflated. "Thanks for coming," he said, as I sat across from him. "I was not sure you would." "I almost did not," I admitted, "but I figured I would hear what you have to say." Jason stared into his coffee cup. Brittany left me. In Dubai. She literally changed hotels after the third day and refused to talk to me for the rest of the trip. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy, I heard. I am sorry. Do not be, he replied with a bitter laugh. You were right about her. The minute she realized the trip was not going to be Instagram-worthy luxury, she showed her true colors. She kept saying things like, "Your brother could afford better but chose to be petty," and "I thought your family had money." By the end, she was flirting with businessmen at the hotel bar right in front of me. I sipped my coffee, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to say, "I told you so," but the defeated look on my brother's face stopped me. It was not just about the trip, Jason continued. It was about everything she thought being with me would get her. Access to Dad's construction connections, your tech money, a certain lifestyle. When that all fell apart in Dubai, so did her interest in me. That is rough, I acknowledged. But maybe it is better to find out now than after you were married. Jason nodded slowly. That is what Mom said too. He looked up at me finally. I owe you an apology, Nathan. A big one. I should have stood up for you and Amanda when Dad suggested that change to the trip. It was your vacation, you paid for everything, and we had no right to demand anything. The apology surprised me. In our entire adult lives, I could not remember Jason ever admitting he was wrong about anything significant. I appreciate that I said carefully. But this was not just about the trip, Jason. It has been our entire lives. Dad always favored you, always made excuses for you, always expected me to be the responsible one while letting you off the hook for everything. And you let him. You took advantage of it. Jason flinched, but did not deny it. I know. I always knew, if I am honest. It was easier to just go along with it than to admit it was unfair. He rubbed his face wearily. Being the favorite is not all it is cracked up to be, you know. Dad did me no favors by never holding me accountable. Look at us now. You have a great career, a nice place, a relationship with someone who actually loves you for you. I have a dead-end job, an ex-fiancée who was using me, and no direction. This vulnerable side of Jason was entirely new to me. I had always seen him as confident and entitled, never considering that perhaps the favoritism had damaged him in different ways than it had damaged me. Have you talked to Dad since you got back? I asked. Jason grimaced. He is still furious with you. Keeps talking about family loyalty and respect. I tried to tell him that we were in the wrong, but he does not want to hear it. You know how he gets when his authority is challenged. I did know. My father's stubborn pride had been a constant force in our family dynamics. Once he decided he was right about something, it was nearly impossible to change his mind. Dad stopped by my apartment yesterday, Jason continued. He was going on and on about how you need to apologize and make things right. I finally asked him why you should apologize when we were the ones who changed your plans and tried to kick your girlfriend off a trip you paid for. He just stared at me like I had grown a second head. Despite everything, I laughed at the image. I bet that went over well. About as well as you would expect, Jason replied with a small smile. He left pretty quickly after that. But listen, Nathan, I am serious about making things right between us. I know one conversation cannot fix years of messed up dynamics, but I want to try. You are my brother, and despite everything, I love you. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. Throughout our childhood and early adulthood, emotional honesty had never been a feature of our relationship. We had communicated through competition sarcasm and occasional grudging cooperation, but rarely through direct expressions of affection. I would like that, I said finally. But things need to change, Jason. Really change. Not just words. I know, he nodded. I am looking for a better job, something with actual career potential. And I am thinking about getting some therapy to work through some of this family stuff. Mom suggested it, actually. Mom always was the wise one, I commented. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering ground we had never explored before. Jason admitted to feeling insecure about my success and using Dad's favoritism as a crutch. I confessed how deeply the years of being second best had hurt me. It was awkward and uncomfortable at times, but also strangely liberating. As for my father, reconciliation proved more challenging. He continued to send messages demanding an apology, each one more self-righteous than the last. When I did not respond, he tried to enlist other family members to talk some sense into me. Most of them, having heard both sides of the story, declined to get involved. Surprisingly, my mother became my strongest defender. At a family dinner I skipped, she apparently told my father in front of everyone that he had been playing favorites for years, and it was about time he faced the consequences. According to my aunt, who delightedly reported the incident, Dad had been stunned into rare silence. Work became a welcome distraction from the family drama. I threw myself into a major project, earning recognition from senior management when we delivered ahead of schedule. Amanda's freelance design business was thriving as well, with new clients coming in based on referrals from her growing portfolio. 3 weeks after our return, I finally agreed to meet with my father. We met at a neutral location, a park near my office, where we could talk privately, but in public enough that a scene was unlikely. "You embarrassed me," were his first words, as he sat down beside me on a bench. "You made me look like a fool in front of Jason and Brittany." "That was not my intention," I replied calmly. "But you left me no choice when you decided to kick Amanda off the trip without even consulting me." "I am your father," he said, as if that explained and excused everything. "You should have respected my decision. And you should have respected that it was my trip that I paid for," I countered. "You cannot have it both ways, Dad. You cannot treat me like a child whose decisions you can override, while also expecting me to foot the bill for luxury vacations." He was silent for a moment, staring at a group of children playing nearby. "Jason broke up with Brittany," he said finally. "I know." He told me. Dad looked surprised. "You two have talked?" "Yes. Several times since we got back." Something shifted in my father's expression. Confusion, perhaps, or the first hint of recognition that the dynamic between his sons was changing without his involvement. "He thinks I was wrong about the trip," Dad said, sounding genuinely bewildered by the concept. "Jason actually defended you." "Because he realized I was right," I said simply. "What you asked me to do was unfair, Dad. If you cannot see that, then we have nothing more to talk about." I stood to leave, but my father reached out and caught my arm. "Wait," he said, and for the first time I heard a note of uncertainty in his voice. "I do not want to lose you over this." It was not an apology, he was still too proud for that, but it was something, a crack in the wall of certainty, that had defined our relationship for so long. "Then you need to start treating me with respect," I told him. "Not as an ATM, not as second best to Jason, but as your son who deserves the same love and consideration you have always given him." Dad looked away, uncomfortable with the directness of my words. "I have always loved you both the same," he muttered. "No, you have not," I said firmly. "But you could start now." I left him sitting on that bench looking somehow older and less certain than I had ever seen him. Whether anything would truly change remained to be seen, but for the first time, I was not defining my worth by his approval. That in itself felt like victory. 6 months after the Dubai incident, we gathered at my mother's house to celebrate her 58th birthday. It was the first time our entire family had been in one place since the airport confrontation. I brought Amanda, of course, and a small, elegantly wrapped box that contained a pair of sapphire earrings my mother had admired months ago, but would never buy for herself. The atmosphere was tentatively peaceful. Jason arrived early to help set up, demonstrating his ongoing efforts to be more considerate. He had started a new job in project management at a reputable construction company, not through Dad's connections, but through his own initiative and a night course he had taken in construction management. The change in him was subtle, but noticeable. A new confidence that came from earning something rather than having it handed to him. Dad arrived last, carrying flowers and a nervous expression. He had been making awkward attempts at reconciliation over the past few months, inviting me to lunch, asking about my work, even making an effort to get to know Amanda better. They were small steps, sometimes accompanied by backsliding into old patterns, but they represented more effort than he had made in our entire adult relationship. "Nathan," he greeted me with a nod, his eyes conveying what his pride still prevented him from saying directly. "Good to see you." "You too, Dad," I replied, meaning it more than I had expected to. Mom's eyes filled with tears of happiness, seeing her family together, and relatively harmonious. "This is the best gift I could have asked for," she said, embracing each of us in turn. During dinner, conversation flowed more easily than I had anticipated. Jason talked about his new job with genuine enthusiasm. Dad managed to ask Amanda questions about her design work without any backhanded comments about the stability of freelancing. Mom beamed at us all occasionally, catching my eye with a look that said, "Can you believe this is happening?" The most surprising moment came when Dad cleared his throat as we finished dessert. "I want to say something," he began awkwardly. "I have not been entirely fair in how I treated you boys growing up." He looked specifically at me. "Nathan, you worked hard for everything you have achieved, and I should have acknowledged that more. I should have supported you the way I supported Jason." The table fell silent. In my entire life, I had never heard my father admit to favoritism, let alone apologize for it. "What brought this on?" I asked, genuinely curious. Dad glanced at Mom, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot, and I have been seeing someone too, a counselor." He said the word as if it still felt foreign in his mouth. "She has helped me see some patterns I was blind to before." I was stunned. My father, the man who had always dismissed therapy as paying someone to listen to you complain, was voluntarily seeing a counselor. "That is great, Dad," I said sincerely. "Really? Do not get me wrong," he added quickly, some of his old defensiveness returning. "I still think you could have handled the Dubai situation differently, but I understand why you did what you did." Coming from my father, this qualified as a massive concession. I accepted it with a nod, knowing that complete acknowledgement of wrongdoing might never come, and that was okay. What mattered was the effort to change going forward. After dinner, as Amanda and I helped Mom clean up in the kitchen, she squeezed my hand. "I am proud of you," she whispered. "Standing up for yourself was not easy, but look what it has started." She was right. My act of rebellion had created ripples I never anticipated. Jason reassessing his life choices, Dad confronting his parenting failures, our family dynamics shifting towards something healthier. The pain and drama had been worth it for this new beginning. 2 weeks later, Amanda and I went away for a weekend at a cozy cabin in the mountains. On our first evening, as we sat by a crackling fire watching snow fall outside the window, I knelt in front of her and opened a small velvet box. "Amanda Mitchell," I said, my voice steady, "despite my pounding heart, you have stood by me through family drama, career stress, and an international revenge plot." She laughed at that, her eyes already glistening with tears. "You have helped me become stronger, braver, and more myself than I ever thought possible. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she said without hesitation, pulling me up for a kiss. "1,000 times, yes." As we celebrated our engagement, I reflected on how different our future looked from what I had imagined a year ago. I had spent so much of my life seeking approval from my father, trying to earn the love and recognition he gave so freely to Jason. The Dubai incident, painful as it was, had finally broken that pattern. I no longer needed my father to validate my worth. I had found that within myself and in the eyes of the woman who truly saw me. In the months that followed, both Jason and my father continued their halting progress toward healthier relationships. Jason had started dating again, a kindergarten teacher named Rebecca, who seemed genuinely kind and was clearly with him for who he was, not what he could provide. Dad made an effort to treat us equally, though old habits occasionally emerged in subtle ways. When they did, I now felt confident enough to point them out directly, and remarkably, he usually listened. As for Brittany, we heard she had become engaged to a real estate developer just 3 months after breaking up with Jason. Her social media was filled with photos of luxury cars, expensive restaurants, and designer clothes, the lifestyle she had hoped to access through my brother. Jason had dodged a bullet, and we were all relieved. Planning our wedding became a new test of family dynamics. Amanda and I wanted a relatively small ceremony, but Dad initially pushed for a large, showy affair. This time, however, when I firmly stated our preferences, he backed down with only minimal grumbling. Progress, however, imperfect, was still progress. The most meaningful change came in how I viewed myself. No longer defining my worth through my father's approval, had freed me to recognize my own strengths and accomplishments. The constant need to prove myself, to work harder than everyone else, just to be noticed, had diminished. I still worked hard, but now it was for my own satisfaction and goals, not to earn love that should have been freely given. Looking back on the Dubai incident now, I can see it was never really about the trip. It was about years of accumulated hurt, of being treated as less important, of having my feelings and needs dismissed. The vacation was simply the breaking point, the moment when I finally said enough. Some might say my revenge was petty or excessive. Perhaps it was. But it forced a confrontation that had been building for decades, lancing a wound that could never have healed otherwise. Sometimes the most painful moments lead to the most necessary growth. What I learned through all of this is that real family is not just about blood relations. It is about mutual respect, consideration, and support. It is about celebrating each other's happiness rather than demanding sacrifices to maintain a hierarchy. It is about love that does not come with conditions or comparisons. I am building that kind of family now, with Amanda, with the improved relationships with my mother and brother, and perhaps someday with children of our own. Even my father, stubborn as he is, seems to be slowly learning what it means to truly be a family. So, if you are in a situation where you are constantly giving while others only take, where your generosity is expected but never appreciated, remember this: you deserve better. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for your well-being and for the health of your relationships. Sometimes, standing up for yourself is the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted? What happened when you finally drew a line? Share your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that transform us the most. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is not determined by how much others take advantage of your kindness.